Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name is Josh.
And welcome back to FPL Graduates. It is FPL Fridays again. It is the international break, isn't it, Josh? But we still got a cracking episode lined up.
Yeah, as always, we always do FPL Fridays no matter what. So it's going to be a good one. We've got a really special guest today. Not really in the FPL community, but he does play it. And it's Mr. Lees. How you doing, Joel, mate?
Yes, guys. What's happening? Everyone good?
Yeah, always.
Good. Special guest. I like that intro. Thank you.
Now, Joel, as we can see, you've got the Arsenal shirt on. You're repping it. Tell us a little bit why you support Arsenal and how you come about to supporting the Gooners.
Okay, so firstly, my home team is Colchester United. That's the first reason. No, I'm joking. I supported Colchester growing up a little bit. Obviously, easier to support your hometown in their glory days or when they're doing a little bit better. My father actually brought me up, I hate to say this in front of Josh, as a United fan. So much so that I had, I was like any kid, I had like the pencil case with all the Man United stuff. I had the old school shirts and that. When I grew up, I was like, I don't like United. And I moved literally down the road from the Arsenal stadium. And one of my pals took me to an Arsenal game. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is my team. And yeah, it was too far to travel to Old Trafford. So I'll leave that to Josh.
He's absolutely throwing shade at you straight off the bat. I love it.
I mean, I went the one with an Arsenal pencil case when I was younger. So. But we'll move on. We'll move on. So in terms of FPL, obviously, Arsenal been playing, hitting hot and cold. Some weeks really well, some weeks really bad. In terms of the FPL assets, who would you say is the best ones to bring in if you was picking just from Arsenal?
None. No. It is a tricky one. It's a roller coaster because we're obviously playing more bad than good, or it's seen more bad than good. But we have these little spells where it's a few games. I think Saka's always a good one to have in there, mainly for. Williams kind of taking his position now on the little assist and stuff like that, but it was just a player that is going to start. If he's fit, he's going to start. There's a little bit of rotation going. I suppose in that case, then it sounds like I would play Xhaka, but we're not doing that kind of thing. So it's very hard. Aubameyang's hit and miss. Recently, Lacazette, but if they're the players we're shouting out from Arsenal, then it's obviously not a great idea to have Arsenal players in the squad. Pick Kieran Tierney and hope that he gets down the left-hand side, maybe.
Yeah, fair play. I think it's been interesting because a lot of people have been bringing in a lot of Arsenal players recently because they've been playing in like the last game week. And obviously like Saka's got injured, Aubameyang's not been like picked and all sorts of stuff's happening. So it's a bit of a difficult question, to be fair, to get straight off the bat.
It is. It's a life of an Arsenal fan, boys. I tell you.
I mean, I was looking at it. I think potentially a defender. I know defensively it hasn't been the best this season, but a couple of nice fixtures coming up, a couple of decent defensive performances in there. Someone like Kieran Tierney maybe could do the business.
Yeah. I've had Kieran in my squad in and out. When he was injured, it was a bit tricky. But the hardest thing is Arteta likes to play a little bit of pep roulette when it comes to the defenders. You never know who's going to play. You wouldn't expect Luiz to be playing all the time, although he's been fairly solid in a lot of games. Maybe he got that from Pep. I don't know what it is. The rest of the team stays fairly solid, but with the defensive line, you put Gabriel in there for a little while because he's playing well, and he just get dropped for no reason. So it's a tricky one.
Yeah, it sounds the case. Now we'll have a quick look back at game week 29 because it was quite an important week, and I think a lot of people it went under the radar. A lot of people, and not many people have players in their teams. Josh, you've got your team up now, right?
Yeah. So I'll go through it quickly because obviously we had the game week review. Got 47 points. Oh, didn't want to do that. 47 points. Which took a -4. So in the end, 43. Bamford being the main player. The Leeds boys did me quite well. After that Friday game, it sort of went downhill. Had Malpai as a little differential pick, but other than that, I was quite disappointed given obviously the captaincy to Aubameyang, Bale not playing, Cresswell 0, and obviously El Mohammadi didn't play, which I weren't too fussed about because obviously he's had quite a long run in the team as it was. But yeah, not the worst week, but I definitely was aiming for better for sure.
Yeah, it's not bad. Green arrow at least. Like Joe, what do you make of Josh's team for this week? Did he make the right calls?
Yeah, it's always tricky. It's always tricky on these game weeks, and I did see both you boys. You know, you were jumping the transfers in there, and obviously you're taking a risk. I think Leeds is always a good shout because if it goes well for the Leeds boys, it goes very well. And it is like that. It's just a case if someone doesn't get played, I suppose on that game week, you're not as bothered. So it's like you take that chance, and yeah, I think it's not too bad. If you got some points in the bag on a blank, so yeah, props to Josh.
Yeah, fair play. I mean, it's always going to be difficult captaincy picks. You could have gone anyone really. Just close your eyes and point. I'll bring up my team next before we get on to Joel's team. Let's bring it up here. There we go. Should have it up now. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So 61 points for this week, and it came from my midfield mainly this week. I took a -8, and I took a big risk. I brought in Lewis Dunk, who got me 6, Jesse Lingard 12, and Lucas Moura, who got me 9. It was a risk taking Son out because he could have played, and bringing Lucas in, but so worth it in the end. I could see from that North London derby, I think, Joe, you agree that in terms of Spurs attacking going forward, Lucas is probably their most sort of dangerous player. Yeah, I mean, Leeds boys, Rafinha did all right for me. Kane did all right. Captain pick, you look at it in hindsight and you think, why did I do it? But I did do it for the culture. So, we've got to take that one on the chin. Could have been a legendary captain pick if he'd scored the goal that he should have had in the first half. But, we'll move on, and didn't end up being too bad a week for me, in all honesty.
Yeah, it's good for you. I think you nearly got 100k rank climb, didn't you? So
yeah,
definitely take that on a budget for sure.
Yeah, Joel, can you get up your team?
I can have a look. See if
have a look how you did. Yeah.
This is an old man trying to use technology right here. Right, share screen. Let's go. Okay. Oh, okay. I've got to allow you guys. I'm very sorry.
He's getting there.
Okay, is it going to work? Hello.
You're still here.
Application window, entire screen. I'm getting there.
You are getting there. All right, I think we've got it here.
See it? We're there. Okay, so I got a J Ling special. Now we're not seeing any points. You have to tell me where to click.
Go to the top and then points. Yeah, next to pick team.
Okay, sorry, boys. I use my mobile. all the time. Okay, so I had a J Ling's beauty this week. In saying obviously it was a funny week. It was half a blank week, and I shuffled the team around a little. I almost was inspired by you lads and your transfers, but I had a real problem at the start of the season, and I've been clawing it back ever since because I was playing as if I was still on the Sun Dream team and just banging transfers at the start of the season and didn't realize it was taking points off my squad. So I'm on the comeback. So yeah, the only swap I'd done was Lingard. And when he came in, I had Fernandes in there, and last minute I just saw it and I just flipped Fernandes onto the bench, chucked Lingard in and put a captain badge on him, and that was all right. Without that, I think it would be a little bit of a slow week other than Bamford, and it was one of them where I'm not going to end up taking, the likes of De Bruyne and Tierney, my solid players, out and losing points. So I kind of left it how it was and bought Lingard in, and pretty happy with that, to be honest.
Sensible from you, and you ended up. I mean, the points you probably got a green arrow, to be fair, and went up a bit in ranking.
Well, I think compared to what I have been in previous weeks, like I said, I'm climbing back. So I think most weeks have been green arrows recently, which is nice to see. I'm not sitting at the bottom of our FPL league anymore. I'm second from bottom, so life's good.
Yeah, I think it's a fair moment to say, Lewis, you're bottom, mate. Well, having a great time. Carefree Lewis G, bottom of the league, not having a great time. Although, in fairness, he hasn't actually looked at his FPL team in weeks, I don't think, because he's still got Timo Werner captain.
He wouldn't have changed that anyway.
No, he wouldn't have changed that, but I wasn't going to mention that, Ben. But thanks for that. I appreciate that.
All right.
Let's take this out. Has it worked? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, man. So yeah, we'll move on to the most exciting part of the week, without a doubt. It's FPL Trivia time. We'll ask you questions on FPL and Arsenal-based stuff. You have 60 seconds. The highest score we've ever had is 7, and it just doesn't seem to get beaten. Like it's been there for such a long time. The lowest score is 0.5. So if you don't beat that, I'd be kind of worried, to be honest.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
I mean, guys, as usual in the comments, if you think you know the answer, put it down there. I want to see as many of you trying to get as many points as you can. Try and beat that high score of 7. Let me know if you do. Joe, are you ready?
No, let's go.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Who has the most FPL points for Arsenal this season?
Oh, straight off the bat. Saka?
Lacazette. How much is Lacazette on FPL at the time of recording?
Right now? I don't know, 6.5?
8.2. How many clean sheets do Arsenal have this season in the Premier League?
Very likely to be 0. I don't know. 4?
8. Name an Arsenal player to receive a red card this season.
Xhaka.
Correct. Who has the most assists for Arsenal in the Premier League this season?
Willian.
And how many assists does he have?
7.
5. Which defender scored the most FPL points in Arsenal's 3-3 draw of West Ham?
I don't know if he was playing. Gabriel?
Chambers. How many FA Cups have Arsenal won in their history?
Oh, I have no idea. Can't remember. 22. I don't know.
14. Who is the highest owned Arsenal asset on FPL?
Saka. I don't know.
Oh, it would have been until a few weeks ago. Aubameyang.
Is it?
It's a
Hey, listen. You know, when you hear the question, like, of course, Chambers banged 2 assists, and then when you put under pressure, I might as well be back to Cold United again.
2 points on the board.
I'm not bottom.
I mean, you're not bottom. I mean,
this is a common theme.
It's a common
listen,
theme
that assist question threw me off. I knew you were going to ask the Willian question, the assist question, and no one would expect it to be Willian, but it is.
It is.
He's got 7. I think in total he's got 7 this season. So I mean that should have been a 0.5 if you gave someone else a 0.5. But we'll carry on.
I gave you the point for Willian for getting that Willian one, and then I didn't give you the one for how many assists. I mean,
how did someone get 0.5?
We had to
were
give
you being kind?
Yeah, we were being kind.
So someone has a 0. Someone has a 0.
No, it was 0.5. We'll give them the 0.5. You know. Should we have a look at? I mean, it's a while until game week 30, right? But it wouldn't be too out there to look at the fixtures, and maybe Joel, have a look at them. They're scrolling just down below. Mm-hmm. Is there any team that you probably look to target, look to bring in players from that team? And any team that you kind of think, actually, that's not a very good team to have for FPL?
Straight off the bat, the first 2 teams they look, Chelsea and Leeds. Like, straight away, you think, with West Brom and Sheffield, we all know Sheffield, well, we all know they're both down there, and you think for many teams that are positive playing, they find it really hard to come up against these teams. So I think in terms of that being Leeds for sure, you can get a couple of Leeds players in your squad, they're sure to get points. I'll probably leave my Bamford in there and hope that little yellow exclamation mark comes off his name. And with regards to Chelsea, look, they don't attack too much under Tuchel. Like they like to sit, but I think against a team like that, they're likely to dominate the game. They're likely to pick up some points. So they're the first 2 I'd look at, and probably looking a little bit shaky that City have Leicester, and I've got half the City squad in my team, but you never know.
Yeah, I think that's a very good pitch. Chelsea's obviously a team a lot of people are looking towards now, especially defensively, with their runner games and obviously their defensive record right now. It's been unreal, almost like City earlier in the season when everyone hopped on all the City defenders. I think that's sort of going to be happening now towards the end of the season with all the Chelsea boys. I think Bamford's probably most likely to be my captain next week, to be honest, against Sheffield United. They look terrible since they sacked Cresswell. No idea why they did. But yeah, I think Sheffield United, they've always seemed to concede a lot of goals, especially even more so now. Now he's been sacked. So I think that is the go-to game for me this week, is that Leeds Sheffield United game.
Yeah, I'm going to say as well, an under the radar fixture, in my opinion, is that Everton Crystal Palace one. And I was looking at the stats behind it, and Crystal Palace have conceded the most big chances as a result of crosses and headers than any other team in the league this season. So they clearly can't defend against strikers that are good in the air. And who do Everton have? They have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who banged into against San Marino. He's going to be looking a bit more confident now going forward. So, I mean, that's an interesting one to look at. Maybe look at Lucas Digne as well of Everton. There's a couple of boys in there that could hurt that Crystal Palace defence.
Yeah, you got a good point as well. Sorry, Josh. You got a good point with the international break. When coming back from the international break, you even look at players like I've just seen down there, Aston Villa versus Fulham. Watkins is probably going to come back with the biggest smile on his face. So as long as he don't get injured in training or the last game, you know, he's going to come back confident, ready. He's been waiting for that moment. We saw it in the press conference afterwards in the interview. He might just tip the rest of his season and let him carry on the rest of the season and see it out well. You never know. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that sort of stuff. I think someone asked, like in the TikTok live, who would I replace Watkins with? And I wouldn't really take him out right now. If you have a lot of confidence after that, I think Jack Grealish will be back as well for that Fulham game. So I think Villa will be looking ready and raring to go for the push towards the end of the season. I think one more fixture just to quickly mention before we move on: Newcastle, Tottenham. Newcastle look terrible right now. Harry Kane, it'll be an obvious captain pick because pretty much everyone has him. So I think he's also a very good captain pick for next week too.
Yeah, decent. I agree with that. Now, as our final segment, main segment of the video this week, we won't go through the captain pick and team reveal this week or differential because we've obviously got so much time before the next game week. We're going to look at a wildcard draft, and a lot of people have been asking when's the best time to play the wildcard. I've played mine now. I've played my wild card because I don't like the look of my team next week, and I want to get in ahead of everyone else who wants a wild card in 31. I'm getting in there, getting the players I want before they rise, and we've seen a lot of players rise, right, Josh?
Yeah, a lot of people, especially over the international break, seem to be rising. Not too many transfers being made just yet, but definitely towards the end, after maybe the second fixtures, you'll see them going up even more than they already have for sure.
Yeah, so Joel, if you're looking to make a wild card right now, is there specific players that you'd be like, he's straight in my team, can't go without him?
Just dropping a note. I used my wild card on week 3 because I didn't know what it was. Anyway,
you should have another one. To be fair.
Oh,
you
really?
Have another one, buddy.
Look, I think the fact is, we all look at City this season. It's obviously we've had this problem with Pep Roulette and will my players get played? But I think when he's fit, there's no doubt that Kevin De Bruyne gets played in games. Unless they're coming up against really small opposition, maybe he'll sit out. But even then, we've seen him coming off the bench. So yeah, De Bruyne has probably been that player for me this season that he's got to be in there, because if he does play, he does get points. There's not a game where he's on the pitch and he doesn't pick up a few points. He gets an assist or he gets a goal. So yeah, I think De Bruyne is that person.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. I mean, in my wildcard draft, he's straight in there. He was one of the first names in because you just feel like he's hitting his form of last season now because he's been injured a lot of the season. We've seen him before the international break. He popped up with a goal in the internationals. He's banging them in. I mean, that goal against Mönchengladbach was unreal. And then he scored another banger for Belgium. What was it, yesterday? I mean, we could be seeing him fresh, ready to tear up the last bit of the season. What do you reckon, Josh? Do you reckon De Bruyne is going to hit that form?
Yeah, definitely. When you watch him, even in the games that aren't obviously Premier League games, the Everton game, the reason they score in first in that game is because of De Bruyne. And then you look in the Belgian team; he's obviously running the show for them. He's just probably the most informed premium asset right now. So it would be silly not to have him in. I think also Bruno Fernandes has to be in there just because of his ownership. I think a lot of people overlooking at how detrimental that can be to your rank. I think it's like 60%, if not more. on the app itself. His effective ownership obviously will be way higher than that. So I think he's also really important. United don't have the most terrible run either. I think it's actually one of the best runs towards the end of the season. So I'm sure they'll be picking up a few points because with them, they still need to win games to get top 4. And I think those two would be my 2 premiums alongside Harry Kane.
You just couldn't let a Man City player get shouted out without a United player. You just couldn't allow it.
You're just jealous that Aubameyang's not up there, man.
Listen. Since Fernandes and Son are the 2 players, since I put them into my team, I haven't got too much out of them. I'm hoping that they finish off strongly, both of them. But Fernandes, that's why I said De Bruyne. It would have been Fernandes a couple of weeks ago. But De Bruyne is so consistent.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah, Fernandes not really in the best form right now. We've seen probably the first dip since he joined United, but I still think he's obviously there. And I said in the TikTok live, he's still thereabouts. Like in the City game, for example, he doesn't really do a lot, but he gets the penalty, scores it, takes 2 bonus points. If a player scoring of his ownership scoring 10 points against you, it's just going to absolutely kill your rank.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, if we're looking at for a wild card, you have to have a Chelsea defender in.
If not 2.
If not 2. So that would be one of Rudiger, Christensen, Azpilicueta, Mendy, I think. I think you have to have a United defender in there.
Luke Shaw.
Probably Luke Shaw. Yeah. I don't see anyone else really that is better value.
Maybe Wan-Bissaka if you want to go different, but
yeah,
it's got to be Luke Shaw.
But then you'd say Reece James for Chelsea if you're going to say Wan-Bissaka, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's that risk of rotation though, isn't it? With Reece James, that's the only thing I'd look at. But definitely a good option. I'd say you need. Yeah, I've got Rudiger in, and I think at this point you have to have Ruben Dias. Yeah, because he starts every game without fail. The man is a machine. I think there's a stat he's played 11 consecutive games in 35 days or something ridiculous like that. Man's a machine. He's just undroppable for Portugal and for Man City. So I think you need to have one of them in. And then in terms of other assets, I think you could go differential. I think you still need one of Son or Kane as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with pretty much every single pick you made there. I think defense is going to be where you might pick up the most points towards the end of the season. There's in the midfield and attack, there's a lot of options and not really any go-to ones as of yet. I think we're waiting for the must-haves to emerge. Like we've seen, obviously, Jota just come back from injury. He does look like a good asset, but is he going to maintain that form, or is Mo Salah or Mane going to pick up the slack that they haven't done pretty much all season? They've been a bit underperforming for their standard for sure, and obviously they obviously cost nearly double the price of Jota. Joel, what do you think about the Liverpool boys this season going forward? Do you think they are still within a shout to get into your a wildcard team?
I don't think so. I think Jota, the way Jota started this season, or the way we just first started to see him when he came from Wolves, and we started to see now this guy's got serious potential in a big club. It's a shame that their attackers have just lost all their confidence. I think the whole team's missing Henderson, and Van Dijk was a blow, but when Henderson got ruled out, he pulls all the strings in that squad, attacking and defensively. So look, they're lost without him. I think the one thing you're missing if they continue their form is West Ham players, because they're cheap and they're playing out of their socks. Thomas Soucek, for example, or Soucek, however you say his name. Jay Lings always pops up here and there. It just depends. We saw what they can do against Arsenal, unfortunately, in the first half. And, that just shows what they have got to go with. And maybe Moyes will say to them, look, you can do that in any game we have for the rest of the season in the first half. We need to hold on to it in the second half. You can get some big points from their players and for a very small cost.
Yeah, without a doubt, they're some of the best performers this season. Probably the best team to go to FPL was, because obviously, as you mentioned, they're so cheap. It's interesting with Jay Lings and Soucek, the ones you mentioned, because ever since Lingard's come into the team, Soucek's output has been massively effective in terms of going forward. I don't think he's actually returned ever since Lingard's played. So it's interesting for them. Obviously, he scored a hat-trick for Czech Republic the other day, so he's definitely good form. I mean, we all know he can score those kind of goals. So both, I think, are still very good assets to own, and especially Soucek, who's pretty much 5 million. He's bench fodder in a way. Cresswell, I think, still within a good shout, because obviously he's in set pieces, and we know how West Ham scored most of their goals. I know a lot of people brought in Craig Dawson about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he scored like an own goal in each week since then. So maybe I probably wouldn't go for him because West Ham, they will concede eventually. Like, they're not the best defensive team in the league. So I think I'd probably choose Cresswell over Dawson. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. I think Cresswell is that go-to option in West Ham in general. I think you could pick and choose between like Jayling, Souček, Antonio, like one of them three as to who you go, and you could probably cherry pick any one of them and they get points every other week. But Cresswell, I think's the most important one. He's outscoring a lot of midfielders and a lot of attackers this season because he's getting so many returns. He's on corners, he's on set pieces, and he's crossing them into the likes of Dawson, the likes of Souček, Declan Rice, all big guys, Antonio, who are good in the air. So I think you've got to have Aaron Cresswell in, because if you don't, you're going to be missing out on those points. And what's his ownership? Probably like 25% at the moment. So it is quite a bit up there, but I think it'd be silly not to have him in at this point.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think Lingard also falls into that category. I think with his form right now, he seems to be scoring against pretty much everyone. And until he drops off, I think if I was on a wildcard, I'd definitely have him in. Because he's also easy to take out as well, because there's a lot of players around that price point.
I agree. I mean, I've got Lingard in at the moment. I may as well show my wildcard draft at the moment. Is what I may as well do. It hasn't changed at all since last week. So we have mudded Josh in that regard, because he said I was going to change it by next week. He said for sure it's going to change, but it hasn't. Currently on this sort of thing, the double up of Chelsea boys in there, Ruben Diaz, Cresswell, like Joel said, Shaw. I mean, all these boys in there we've pretty much mentioned, right? The Bruyne, DCL's in there.
Yeah.
I like him against Palace. We'll see what he does going forwards. I've got Jota, Lingard. One guy we haven't actually mentioned is Iheanacho of Leicester. I'm really liking the look of him right now. He almost seems to be getting the best out of Vardy this season. Like, Vardy hasn't looked too great and in too much goal scoring form, but since they changed to a 2 up top with the injuries they got, Iheanacho and Vardy, the link up has been good.
Yeah,
good.
I'd choose Iheanacho over Vardy. I don't think Vardy's not in the best FPL kind of form in terms of getting points on the board. I don't think he's scored in the last 14 games or something crazy stat like that for Leicester. So I'd probably avoid Vardy, especially his price, because I've seen a few people on Twitter definitely bringing in Vardy, and it's sort of shocked me in a way, because I think there's way better Leicester assets than him, Iheanacho being one of them. And also with Leicester's fixtures at the minute, they're not the best. They do get better, but obviously like Man City next week, he's going to have to be on the bench, Iheanacho. You can't really rely on him to get those kind of returns every week. It's been fantastic what he's done recently, don't get me wrong, but he obviously will slow down, because it's the kind of player he is. You can't even guarantee his minutes when Barnes and Maddison return.
Yeah, he is so cheap, isn't he? That it's kind of risk-free for me at this point. Like, I can have him on the bench. I don't have to worry too much about it this week. And realistically, like, he could do something. But if he doesn't, it's an easy switch to one of the other strikers at that price point he starts. You got Shea Adams in there, same price point, does start week in, week out for him. So, yeah, I mean, Joel, what do you make of my wild card at the moment? Is there any players that you'd switch out?
I think you got it pretty on point, to be honest. I think, we've seen, I think every player that's in your team, maybe bar De Bruyne, we've seen ups and downs from. I'd say that Diaz has been, on a consistent level for a number of weeks. But before that, it was a little bit hit and miss with him. So I think you've actually got a lot of players in there which we've been seeing good things from recently. It just depends on if their form carries, doesn't it? I think DCL, it's a hard one with DCL. I've put him in and pulled him out so many times, because just when I think he's going to hit form, and it just doesn't quite get it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. James Rodriguez being out, not supplying the boys as much. Like, they seem to have a good run of form earlier in the season when all their players were fit. And so, yeah, it's just, it's that same old thing that we have with Fantasy Premier League every year, isn't it? It's like, if you take the risk and it pays off, or if you pick right and it pays off, then you're going to look like a hero. And if it doesn't, you feel the opposite.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Is that pretty much it then? I'll let you carry on if you have something to say.
I mean, that's literally, I was going to say, it's the only 50-50 player I feel about this wild card right now is BCL. And, at the moment, we'll take that risk. We'll see next week if I do end up keeping him in. I'm sure it won't change too much, but there's always potential for it to change. We know what every FPL manager's like, tinkering with it until the last minute. But that pretty much sums up the FPL Fridays, right, Josh?
Yeah, that is pretty much it. Thank you, Joel, for coming on. Do you want to just let everyone know where they can find you if you want to plug yourself?
Yeah, sure. Mainly shouting out the YouTube at the moment. I've got a lot of new material on there, a lot of content. So that's youtube.com/Mr. Lee's Music, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff where you find all your favorite artists. You can find your new favorite artist.
Good stuff. We love to hear it. Joel does actually make bangers, not even capping. So definitely go check him out. And that wraps up FPL Fridays international break one. Not as fun and jam-packed as usual content-wise, but it's still been a decent one and some good food for thought going forward for sure.
Yeah, we've left all of Joel's links in the description below, so make sure you go check that out. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, follow the FPL Graduates everywhere. Any platform you go on, FPL Graduates, we're there. And I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
I've been Joel.
Hey,
see you guys
later. Have a good